Welcome to Raw Take, everyone, the lifeline to your unfiltered media experience. I'm your host, Gian Thomas, and before we get into the show today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any uploads. Also, you can find us anywhere where you can listen to podcasts, and like I said before, you know how the YouTube algorithm works. It likes to suppress independent content creators, so like, commenting, and sharing the video goes a very long way. So, New York, the New York mayoral races are over with, and the results are in. And it's not that big of a surprise, but there are some upsets and some shocks in this race. One of the big shocks, well, it's not even a shocker anymore because, as we know, when you don't cater to your base, you know they're going to leave you high and dry. Andrew Yang has lost the primary race to Eric Adams in the New York primary mayoral race. And he got 11% of the vote, and Eric Adams, I think, got over 20% of the vote. So he lost in a landslide. Andrew Yang, I think, was like the fourth person. I mean, they had like two other people ahead of him. And so, he fell off as soon as his Israel comments came out. I mean, when he came in full support of Israel and condemned the Palestinians, I mean, it just totally tanked his campaign, and just the progressives that was going to support him wind up not supporting him. And it was very evident. When you lose your base, you lose the race. And I think that is a saying that we need to start using nowadays, because it is clearly evident. If you are not a progressive candidate, if you are not trying to fight for the change, if you are not trying to fight for average American workers, the average American person, if you're just trying to fight for the 1% and the status quo, you're not going to win. The people do not want that, and it was clearly seen in Andrew Yang's mayoral race. I mean, I think he was the number one candidate. I think he was polling at number one, and it wasn't until those Israel comments came out, and he was pro-Israel and talking against the Palestinians, is when he tanked. And people understand, people have knowledge of what's going on with Israel, how much money America gives to Israel to bomb these poor people. And people understand that conflict. And progressives, now a lot of people on the left, we're not going to tolerate someone talking pro-Israel. We're just not. And it's not because we're anti-Semitic or anything like that, but you have to call balls and strikes, and you have to call what Israel is doing. And so, as soon as he did that, he started to tank. And New York is a blue state, it is a Democratic state, but it is a corporate Democratic state. And the fact that he couldn't win in a corporate Democratic state just goes to show that the state itself is going more left, going more progressive, more leftist. And I think it's very evident in the India Walton race in Buffalo. And she beat out Brown, an incumbent who was in office, I think, since 2005. He's been in there for 4 terms. And she beat him. And she is a proud democratic socialist. And she ran on defund the police. So let's look at these 2 clips and see what to try and get a sense of who she is as a candidate.
The current police budget and the proposed reform agenda fails to address what the community is really asking for. We're asking for money to be moved. The reductions in overtime and court time are great, but we are not seeing investments in expanding youth employment, after school programming, or education, things that really reduce crime and increase public safety. So I'm calling on the administration to do more and do better by our people. The entire intent of this campaign is to draw down power and resources to the ground level and to the hands of the people. And when we think about socialism, we're perfectly fine with socialism for the rich. We will bail out Wall Street and banks and give $1 billion in tax incentives to one of the richest people in the world to build an empty Tesla factory in South Buffalo. And when it comes to providing the resources that working families need to thrive, socialism becomes scary at that point. So I'm very proud to be a democratic socialist. I am proud to have the support of Buffalo DSA and National DSA. I received a call from Congresswoman AOC this evening, and I'm just excited to be a part of this movement that is ushering progressive politics into Buffalo. Being the third poorest mid-sized city in this country, we should be considering how we begin to eradicate concentrated poverty and disadvantage, and democratic socialist leanings are a big step in getting us there.
So we see that she's a proud socialist. She talked about reallocating funds from the police to the people. Another thing that she talked about that I really love is she talked about, socialism. We give billionaires all this money, but we have corporate socialism. But whenever we talk about giving money back to the regular people, now socialism is such a scary word. And so I love what she's talking about, because it's stuff that we talk about on the show every single day. We talk about the corporate social welfare system that we have here in America, and how we have socialism for the rich, but not for the poor. And so her talking about that just goes to show that, the things that we're talking about on the show is just like right on track. And that, she's on the right path and we're on the right path, and progressives, we are on the right path as a group, as a political group, And so I just love how she just came in there. She ran on strong progressive policy, and she didn't back down. She was not afraid of the word socialist, and I think it's just a scary, that's a word that the right likes to use as a scare tactic. But I think as we have conversations, as we explain ourselves, I think we can totally get rid of those narratives, and that's exactly what she did. And I think that's an example for candidates all across the nation. I think this is something that we can definitely learn from. Looking at her platform, talking about the things she talked about, I think those are things that can definitely help. And so, let's take a look at her platform. So we can just get a feel for some of the things that she ran on. They said she ran on defund the police and stuff like that. So let's look at this. So yeah, this is her key campaign issue. So she talked about bringing accountability and transparency to the community, centered around the Buffalo Police Department. She talked about prioritizing and addressing the root causes of crime, such as poverty, lack of living wage jobs, things that we all talk about when we talk about defund the police. And so I don't know if I mentioned, but she did not use the term defund the police, but she used the policy proposals of defund the police, and which is what I always talk about. It's about policy. Policy will get you elected. Don't worry about the terms. Don't worry about what these laws, what she's advocating for. She calls for an independent oversight body. We talk about that. We talk about police having an oversight committee would defund the police, that the police shouldn't police themselves. I mean, it's a main thing we talk about when we talk about defund the police. So I think we can learn something from her campaign. Just create a task force to investigate every police officer and fire or demote police officers with consistently bad records. I mean, that is exactly what we advocate for. And this is her first thing. This is the number one thing that she's running on. Public safety. She has it labeled as public safety. So her main thing was running on reforming the police, basically defunding the police. That's what she ran on, and she won. People have to understand, you cannot play the game with the Republicans of them controlling the narrative with scare tactics and they'll be like, oh, they're trying to defund the police. Who's gonna come pick up who's gonna answer the call when somebody's robbing your house? Well, police mostly, they never stop break-ins. They always respond after the fact. It's always after the fact. They come to your house, they get a police report. They don't come there when the crime is actually happening. That rarely happens. So what she's advocating for, talking about putting resources into the community, advocating for after-school programs and programs to get kids, off the streets and have them doing other things. I mean, that's the preventative measures that we need to take. Instead of beefing up the police, you're going to give cops all these guns and give them tear gas and give them tanks, but is that going to really stop? Is that going to really help them from stopping crime? No, that doesn't do anything to stop crime. If anything, it makes it more. It makes it look like more of a oppressive force. It's just asinine. So of course, her running on putting resources back into the community. I mean, that's just perfect. I mean, you can't get any better than this. And this is the stuff that we talk about all the time. All the time. I just did a presentation. You have to run on bold, progressive policies. Don't be afraid of running on defund the police. Maybe don't call it defund the police, but do it like how she did it. It's still defund the police. Fox came out with an article about her saying defund the police candidate wins mayoral race. So they're going to already call it defund the police. But get into what it's asking for, what she means, what the policy proposals truly say. Housing. Talked about housing. Housing is a human right. Housing is a human right. She was homeless. I think when she talks about housing and having housing being all right, she's speaking from experience. I think she was 14 years old when she had her two twins, and I think she was homeless. I mean, so she knows that this is a right. We need more progressive candidates like this. Okay, she wants a landlord registration. Just bold progressive policy. That's what she's running on, and she won. I mean, she talks about climate change. Okay. Let's see what she said about climate change. Convert city of Buffalo fleets. Okay, so she wants to convert their cars into electric cars. I think she's talking about probably for the city, so taxis and stuff like that. Just bold economic, food access, infrastructure, She's talking about addressing food deserts in her area, having community gardens, open air markets, neighborhood owned grocery stores, the things that her community needs. So the things that I talk about, the things when I talk to candidates about, this is exactly what she used to win. And so, like I said, even here in Texas, you can win on a bold progressive message, but it has to be, you have to make it policy based. You have to go into detail what your policies mean. And that's exactly what India Walton did. And so I want to just go over like the solution, what we need to do to make this change to start happening. And one of the things we need to do is we need to run candidates at the local level. That's what she did. I think when we start to see us transform at a local level, then we can move up to the state level, and then then we can move to the national level. So I think running progressive candidates, socialist candidates at the local level, I think that needs to be the first thing that we do. The second thing that we do is we need to run on progressive, bold, strong progressive policy. That needs to be the thing. And we need to, because that's going to be the thing to energize the base. What I said earlier, you lose the base, you lose the race. So if you don't energize the base, you will ultimately lose your race, because you're not going to get Republicans to vote for you. You're just not. They already have it in their heads that they're not going to vote. They're not going to vote for you. So you got to energize the base. You have to, and you energize the base by running on bold progressive policy, running on aspects of the Green New Deal, getting money out of politics, defund the police, or reallocating funds. I mean, just reallocating funds in general. I mean, bringing those funds to the working class. That needs to be the things that we work on. Economic. It needs to be about economics. We can virtue signal all day, but at the end of the day, it's all about the dollars. And people, the working class doesn't have the dollars. We need to get the dollars, and so there needs to be some kind of reallocation of funds. Another thing, energize the base, and that kind of goes with what I was just saying with bold progressive policy. But with running on bold progressive policy, you will energize people to come vote for you. It's going to draw people out, because you're not the status quo, because you're saying something different, because you're talking about helping this person get more for their tax dollars, get more for, we're the richest country. Like I said, we're the richest country this world has ever seen. And we have people struggling. We have people going into medical bankruptcy. We had a pandemic where we lost over 500,000 people. That's asinine. That's asinine. We have too many resources and too much money for this stuff to be happening. And so another thing that we need to do is we need to infiltrate the Democratic Party. And I know this part is very controversial. A lot of people don't like it, but that is how we're gonna. That is how, either that, or we run. I don't mind running third party, but I'm just saying, like, stay true to who you are, and either you get the Democrats on board or they don't get on board, and then. But I feel like the Democrats are going to have to get on board, because they see people going towards this. They see people advocating more for this progressive policy. More and more people are winning like this, and they see that the party's dying. I always say that. They see that the party's dying, and they see that they need to do something different. But I think we need to infiltrate the Democratic Party and get all of these old heads out of office. It's time for a new wave. And you know, if you want to run as a Democrat and then switch parties, I mean, then that's you. Then do that. That could be something people. That could be something someone does. I know a couple of candidates are doing that with the People's Party. So you know, it's an idea. Just the thing that what I'm really trying to say is it has to be about policy. It has to be about progressive, bold policy, not middle of the road, neoliberal corporate policy. Nobody wants that. People want UBI, put money in the people's hands, have worker-owned co-ops. You know, that's the stuff that people want. We got to give it to them. So, guys, that's our show. Like I said before, like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any uploads. Also, you can find us anywhere where you can listen to podcasts. And like I keep on saying, YouTube is trying to suppress us and try and keep us down, but ain't nobody gonna keep us down because we're gonna stay working, raw taking pop all day. So get linked with us and enjoy the shows, y'all. We got a whole lot more stuff coming. So y'all have a blessed day. Peace.